All right, welcome in. We are going to be going over some if and some if statements today. So this is for anytime you have a data set and you're trying to sum certain cells. For this example, it's going to be sales amount and quantity sold. Real quick, before we dive in, the link to the data set is going to be below if you want to follow along. Otherwise, you can watch the video and then try it on your own later. Okay, so without further ado, let's get started. So, like I said before, we're going to be going over some if and some ifs formulas. So, starting with some if first. Some if gives you values based off of a singular criteria to look up in your data set. So, for this example, we have a data set that shows us sales rep by region, by software sold, by customer industry, by amount, and then by quantity. Now, these two boxes right here, these sales rep and amount sold and software and quantity sold, these are going to be our examples of how we do the sum if statement. Okay, so starting with the first one, you can see sales rep is already pre-filled for us. So we're trying to look up the sales rep and see what the total amount sold was. So we'll start our SumIF formula. We'll do equals SumIF, parenthesis, okay? And then it gives us the formula and all the pieces to it that we need to fill out below. So you can see the range is bolded. So that's the first part of the formula. So we want to find the range where our criteria sits. So for this instance, because we are looking at the sales rep, we want to find the sales rep in this range. So you'll highlight the whole entire column for that range, and then you will select your comma to close that. And then the next part that's bolded, you'll see criteria here. So you'll want to select the criteria you're trying to look up. So for in this instance, it's Ethan, who's our first sales rep, and we will click comma again to close that. And the last piece of this formula is going to be the sum range. So what fields we are trying to sum. In this instance, it's the amount sold. So we will highlight the whole amount column, and then we can close parenthesis and enter. So as you can see, Ethan almost sold $200,000. To find out the other sales reps, you can drag it down, and it'll sum all of the sales reps in their amount sold. As you can see, Nancy didn't sell anything. She is not in this data range if you try to look her up. So I just wanted to show that as an example of it will return a 0 if she sold nothing or if she's not in the data range. Okay, so let's do that one more time just to reiterate it. So this time we want to look up the software and the quantity sold instead of the amount sold. So we want to do equals, again, sum if, and then we are going to look up the range. So this time it will be the software range, comma, select the criteria you want to look up. So in this case, it's HR suite, comma, and then this time we want to sum the quantity sold. So do enter, and then we'll drag this formula down. All right, and you can see all of the quantities sold for each of the softwares. So that kind of concludes how a SumIF statement works. Now, the next question is, what if we have two criteria? So what if instead of just software, we wanted to look up another criteria like region sold or something like that? We'll move over to the SumIFS tab here. So the SumIFS tab, it sounds very similar, but the difference between that and SumIF is that you can give this formula multiple criteria to look up. So we'll start, we have the same data set as we had in the previous tab, except this time we're going to look up based off of 2 criteria, and then we'll move on to looking up off of 3 criteria. So this one, we want to look up quantity sold by region and by the software. So we'll do equals SumIFS. So this is the same formula except with an S on the end. This one is a little bit in reverse. So instead of doing the criteria and the range first, we're going to actually find what we want to sum first. So we want to sum the quantity sold. So we'll highlight the whole column, comma. Okay, and then the next one is going to be the criteria range. So we want to look up by region. So we will highlight the column for region, comma. Now the last piece of this is going to be criteria. So just like before, we want to look up in the region column, we want to look up East. So we'll highlight East and then we'll do a comma, but we don't stop there. We want to also look up the software that's sold. So just like before, we want to find the range where we're looking that up. So that would be the software column, comma, and then the criteria would be HR suite. And then for this one, that concludes all that we want to look up. So we will put enter. And then we can drag it down or double click here and it'll show us all the quantities sold per software per region. Okay, I'll leave this one blank and let you kind of figure out the amount sold on the data set. But similar to this, it'll be the same thing except you'll be summing the amount range. Okay, so that was double criteria. What happens when we have 3 sets of criteria? So now we want to find region by software by customer industry. Okay, so same formula. We'll do equals SumIFS, parenthesis, starting with what we want to, the range that we want to sum. We will go over to quantity for our range, highlight the whole column, comma. Just like before, we want to find the criteria range. So the first set of criteria is going to be region. So we want to highlight the whole region column, comma. We will highlight our first set of criteria is going to be East. So we want to look at East in this column and then comma, and then moving on to our second set. So this is going to be software. So highlight the whole software row, comma, HR suite, comma, and then we can just keep going. I don't think there is a limit to how many criteria you can actually have in this formula. But for this example, the last set of criteria is going to be customer industry. So we want to highlight column D, comma, and click education. So as you can see, we have all of our sets of criteria in here. And then we just want to close the parenthesis and enter. Now double click and this will show us everything, every sale per region, per software, per industry. I will leave this field blank if you want to try it on your own. But otherwise, that concludes the session on SumIF and SumIFS. If you like this channel, please subscribe and click follow. Thank you.